Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the amazing Ryan T. Cusick. Ryan, how you doing today, man?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Ken, for having me on.
Oh, no, this is super exciting for me. You've been talked about very highly by our good friend Michael Colomb. But before we talk about why you're here, Ryan, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. Ryan produced a short film in January, Grandma's Cookies, A Christmas Tale, starring Eileen Dietz, who we all know as Pazuzu from the first Exorcist film, which is amazing. And that was your first time producing or creating any type of film. So what was it like for your very first experience to be with the amazing Eileen?
Eileen, she was, like you said, she's nothing but amazing. Seeing her just get into the moment during acting, just transforming before our eyes was just something just amazing. Like you said, this was the first thing I ever produced. It had its ups and downs behind the scenes, so I did learn a lot. Having kids and going through SAG was kind of a big thing, even though it was just a short 10-minute film. But I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was just an amazing experience, and I'm looking forward to what the future holds. And I wouldn't have changed anything, except obviously more time, more money. But besides that, everything was great.
Right. Change the controllables.
Yeah.
So where are people able to see that at?
Right now, we're going to submit to film festivals. So right now, it's not really open to the public yet. We just actually
Okay.
finished editing a couple of days ago. So, but hopefully, it'll be on. Hopefully, we're hoping to get a physical release, and then probably put it on YouTube eventually.
Okay. Well, the best way to stay up to date with that is by following Ryan on social media. So you can figure out when this is actually going to go live, when you guys are going to be able to check that out. And I have all of Ryan's social media links down in the description as well. But you also own a personal appearance booking agency that you started last year in August, Static Talent Agency. And you've been a journalist for iHorror.com for the past 10 years. So what gave you the drive and the determination to want to start the appearance booking agency?
Well, it kind of ties in with iHorror.com. I started writing for them. It'll be 10 years actually next month already. Time is flying. I started going to conventions about 11 years ago. And then the last few years, I kind of started thinking kind of like, how do these guests get to these conventions? I just started talking to people. I kind of thought, maybe this is something I kind of want to get into. And then I just, made my own company, reached out to a few people, started getting clients, started booking clients into conventions. And now I have about 20 on my roster, just short of this year. So it's growing. It's a learning experience, just like producing that short film. And it has its ups and downs. But if I look at from where I started in August to where I am now, it is moving, but it is moving a bit slower than I had anticipated.
And the growth, like you said, it's definitely a learning curve trying to figure this out because you're trying to do so many different things behind the scenes that a lot of people are like, oh, well, all you gotta do is call and talk to them.
Yeah,
It's a lot deeper than that.
there's a lot more to it that I'm finding out, and but I'm excited because I know what it's like when you go to a convention, you meet that your favorite guest, and I love watching people interact with that guest, with that celebrity, and I kind of want to bring that to these conventions. So that's pretty kind of like why I decided to do it in the first place, was to kind of give back and to replicate and the same feeling that I got.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't visited a convention, I can't recommend it enough. If you go to the Sledgehammer Horror playlist on our YouTube channel here while you're here, you can see some of our on location videos of going to conventions. And like Ryan said, you get to meet these people, and it's not just the guests that you get to meet, but other fans, all the cosplayers, things like that. It truly is a great experience that you don't want to miss out on because there's so many amazing people behind the tables and in front of the tables that you're going to get to meet along the way as well. So you talk about, doing conventions for a while. I always ask this to people because I love doing the conventions. It's something that I think is just a blast. I love hanging out with all different people, getting to make new friends. What's your favorite part of doing conventions?
Like you said, it's just being in the same room with all these like-minded people is just
Mhm.
it's fantastic. I mean, you meet so many people, and the conversations you have, it's just like I can't. It's so sometimes it's so hard to put into words, and I look forward to going to conventions, getting with a group of friends, getting the hotel room, grabbing a bite to eat, hitting the convention floor, checking out the vendors, checking out the guests. So it's just it's something very special, and it can. This, I get the same feeling I got 11 years ago, and I still get to, I still get it today. So it's quite fun.
It's a special time. It is a very
Yeah.
special time. And like I said, I strongly recommend everybody go and check out your local conventions. If you got to travel, I promise you it's worth it. You are going to have the time of your life hanging out with all these amazing horror fans as well. So, Ryan, in order for you, to start Static and to be a writer for iHorror for such a long period of time, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now, my friend, I would like to go back to the past and talk about what it was that got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Ryan, the first horror movie that you watched was?
I would probably the one that I can remember very clearly is probably the Amityville Horror.
What an amazing, amazing start to your horror journey. It's a movie that still to this day really does stand the test of time. People still to this day talk about the influence that Amityville has on them. And, even through the Conjuring movies, they're still keeping that lore alive of the Amityville house and what happened in that house with Ronnie DeFeo and all those different things. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
I do. I had to have been probably about 3 years old. I do remember I was in my parents' den. I don't remember if it may have been on HBO or it was on VHS. It was one of the two. I do remember watching it because I got in trouble because I had like a little container of slime, and I was kind of like imitating ooze coming out from the stairs and the walls in the movie, and I got all over the couch, so I got yelled at for that. So I do have fond memories of that movie. And then my grandmother also had the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can just picture a little Ryan with the mustache still being like, it wasn't me. The house is possessed. It's oozing because of the DeFeos. It was their fault.
Yeah.
So, and it's amazing because when you have these memories, the nostalgia that comes back from watching this movie, you watch this movie and you think about putting ooze on the walls, slime on the walls, and your parents being like, dude, come on, man. But it's still just a soft, sensitive spot. And like that to me is why I love doing this podcast, to hear about these memories. And, me bringing this up to you and you having to travel back in time and think about these things and, maybe get a smile on your face, reliving some of these moments you had when you were watching this film in your parents' den for the first time. These are the things to me that, better than any type of money, better than any type of fame or whatever, when I get to hear people talk about how important their first horror movie was to them and the memories they have from that, it's a genuine, just amazing feeling I get in my chest because horror is that important to us. It is a family member. So, and this movie, like we talked about a little bit ago, it stands the test of time. People still talk about this movie today. But do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
That's a really good question. Probably the scene, one of the most famous scenes in it, the scene where Get Out, where the priest hears that demonic voice tell him to get out. That was pretty crazy with all the flies. Seeing that at such a young age and it felt so real. I would say that's definitely the part.
And especially at that young age, you don't understand the difference between fantasy and reality yet.
Yeah.
So in our mind, we're watching someone on camera, just we're watching humans live their lives, and we see this, and we're like, "Fuck that, I'm out."
Yep.
And it's one of those moments in the film that's supposed to be, especially back then, that was your anchor, your priest, the father of the local church. Like that was the person that was your rock, the person that was steady, that was supposed to help you no matter what. And when that person's like, "Nope,"
he's out.
Like, what am I supposed to do if this guy couldn't do anything?
All bets are off.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know which scene affected you the most from Amityville, Ryan. But what would you say your favorite scene from the film was?
I think my favorite scene was the ending when they finally escaped the house and when they drove away. I mean, it was a sense of relief, but it was still creepy at the same time.
Right. Because, we don't see what happens to them. Nope. We don't for sure get the happily ever after. We get the title cards and stuff, but what really happened after that night? What happened to the Lutz family? So, And again, I'm with you. This was my mom's favorite horror movie. So growing up, this is a movie I watched a lot, and I feel the same way as you. Like seeing a gateway to hell in the basement, all these terrifying things. And again, we talked about the priest that's a rock. What's even more of a rock than that is the patriarch. It's your dad.
Yeah.
And if your dad is turning evil, what chance do you have if you can't trust your dad?
Yeah, zero. Yeah, you're scared of your dad. Dad's gone crazy. Yep.
So, the Amityville Horror did get a remake. We had the Ryan Reynolds led remake. I believe it was
Yep.
2005. I usually
I
ask
think
people, would you like to see your first horror movie remade today? So, did you get a chance to check out the remake? And if so, what were your thoughts on it?
I did. I it feels like a separate movie to me when I don't think I never really thought of it as a remake as such because it is it's very much different. So I kind of thought of it as a separate installment. So, and I enjoyed it, but yeah, I kind of thought of it as a separate installment. So I was kind of never really thought of it as a remake per se, which is kind of odd now. I'm thinking of it out loud.
But you're right. It's so different. And I think that's why I personally love it so much
Yeah.
because it is its own telling of the story. They didn't have to do a scene by scene, bit for bit remake of the film. They were able to add and subtract things to make it scarier. And Ryan Reynolds completely destroyed the role. I thought he was fantastic. So
Mm-hmm.
this is one of
Yeah.
the films where I feel like the remake really was beneficial to what they were trying to do in telling their own story, but keeping the skeleton of the original story intact.
Exactly. You said it exactly, the skeleton, because they added in a lot of different things that weren't there originally, which is fine. You got to, boost the aesthetic, but yeah, definitely they kept the same skeleton.
Right. Well, talking about people's first horror movie is something I love. And I do want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you here for a second, though, Ryan, because my little buddy Ghostface is here and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Ryan? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
That's it's so hard because I think I have one in my, I'm tipping my tongue and then something else will pop in there. Um, I, there's so many good ones. There's so many honorable mentions. I'd say probably, the original Nightmare on Elm Street's probably my favorite. For that's my favorite franchise for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, definitely Nightmare on Elm Street. But there's so many honorable mentions. I know I watched the episode where you guys discussed House. That was a great one. Terry Quinn, The Stepfather, another great one. So there's
Yeah.
so many. Night of the Demons, Witchboard. There's so many different ones that are out there. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, '84 for sure.
You can't go wrong with Nightmare.
Yeah,
Like it really started a whole new genre of horror. And whether you want to make the argument it is a slasher, it is not a slasher, it's supernatural, it's not supernatural, it's just a great movie.
yeah,
And I feel like if you take out the last 5 minutes of that movie, it's the perfect horror movie. I think that it really is. It has the practical effects are there. The kills are few and far between, but extremely memorable. The cast is fantastic. The villain is perfect. So yeah, absolutely. Nightmare to me is cinema gold. It really is. And I'm hoping we can continue the Nightmare story here soon. I would like to see some type of retelling of that story again. I know a lot of people want to let a sleeping dog lie, man, but I need some Freddy back in my life for sure.
yeah.
So,
I
um,
totally agree. Even if we don't get Robert back, hopefully they can figure it out.
yeah,
Hopefully they can figure out
even if
something.
it's even if it's like a Fred Krueger story, or I would even love if they did like what they did with the new Candyman sequel, where it wasn't Tony Todd, but it was the Candyman, and he was different because everywhere the story is different. So one thing that I've thought about, and I've heard it pitched before, was if they did like a Netflix series and each episode was a different part of the world with its own different dream demon, Freddy Krueger,
Yeah,
and because not all the boogeyman doesn't look the same to me as it does to you who grew up on different parts of the United States. So imagine that on a global level and what the boogeyman Freddy Krueger is in these different areas of the world. I think could just be so dope of a 10-part series.
yeah. You could definitely do a 10-part series with that because it's like you
Yeah,
said, Boogeyman can be different for everybody.
right.
Yeah,
We don't all see the same boogeyman when we think of what we're scared of. So
yeah.
I do want to thank you, Ryan, for coming on and talking about your first horror movie, your favorite horror movie. A little bit about yourself as well, but Before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to the Amityville horror. And what we're going to do, Ryan, is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. What we're doing here is ranking this movie strictly on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Ryan, what would your ranking of Amityville horror be?
I gotta say a 5 because it still affects me. This many, 40 years later, since I watched it, it's still affecting me. So definitely a 5.
See, and I love that because I feel that way about House. That was my first horror movie. So I feel like, that movie will always have an effect on me because it started me down this road that I'm on now. So
Yeah.
I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but we're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, make sure you're following Ryan on all his social media links. Those are right down in the description. Not only to become a part of his family, but also that way you can figure out when Grandma's Cookies, A Christmas Tale is going to be available for your viewing pleasure as well. So make sure you're doing that. Ryan, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
All right.
Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are down in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.